What is going on, geeks? Welcome to another Ark building tutorial. This one is for the Desert Steamboat. Based on my old Arctic Steamboat design, I'm rehashing sort of an old design but with new materials, and we're doing it here in the amazing deserts of Ragnarok. Sit back and enjoy today's video, guys. It will be a step-by-step tutorial, so if you build along with me, you will have something at the end that looks a lot like this. And welcome. My name is UniteTheClans. If you're new, together we're going to sit back and build this thing together today. If you have never seen this shape before, then this will all be new. If you've seen my old Arctic Steamboat build, we're going to be using some new materials, and hopefully it will be a better tutorial. I made some mistakes. It was a bit of a clumsy one back in the day when I did that one, and 100,000 people have seen it, so I figured maybe we redo the design and we do it for the desert. So we're going to be building on a raft. When I do raft builds, I like to let you know how many materials we're going to be using, because they have by default a build limit, I think, of 88 structures, like platform saddles do. You can get to a certain point and then you have to stop building. And before we start, guys, I did want to show you this. I'm not sure if this has been this way a very long time, whether this is a new and temporary glitch, or whether this is the way they intended it to be. I can't imagine that. But when you build with Adobe on a raft, all of the texture is Adobe texture and you get no wood texture. So that's something to think about. If you are going to be trying to recreate or mimic this build, you can see those are built on the ground, this built on a raft. Alright, guys, so here we go. Out here with another raft. The sail is hidden. There are a few ways to start off working on a raft, and a lot of people like to use a pillar, grab the handle, and use that to center their placement. We are not trying to center it quite like that. We only want to be too wide. So I'm going to actually get out of here. We're going to grab our Adobe foundation, and we are going to crouch, and then we're going to try and move this green highlighted area until it's basically inside our body, and we are going to use that to we're going to use the third person view to get this perfectly straight. All right, so the first step is to get it straight with the lines that run along the length of the raft. Alright, guys, so I'm going to use the edge of this raft to see how straight my placement might be. It's a little bit hard to judge, but that feels like it's pretty good. If you look down from above, you get the same idea when you come up to this horizontal bar that runs across the front. And our goal is actually to center, to have this be too wide. So we want the line for the center to line up right in the middle of that the hole where the mast typically goes, and it seems like we've done that. And then we want to bring it back so that this is centered in between, sort of perfectly in between the pontoons, so that there's an equal amount of raft ahead of you and behind you to you, and then eventually there will be an equal amount on your left and right when you have those two in. Now the only problem here, typically you could fit 6 foundations here. Once these are in place, and allow me to get up here, you can't access the rudder of the boat. So carefully, I'm going to be removing those, and our next step is to lower these so that we will be able to access the rudder. So the cheapest way to go about this, guys, is with pillars. Now we are going to be lowering, and I will show you this trick if somehow you are not familiar with it in all your time building an Ark. Vanilla pillars, if you're using Structures Plus or any other mods, you will not have this success. Every time you go back and forth placing them, they get ever so slightly lower. And once you have done it enough times, you are going to be able to place a foundation, have it be visible, and at the same time, see how we're getting very close, and at the same time, you are going to be able to access the rudder and pilot the boat. So I think one more is all we're going to need, and I'll place this here. Actually, we have to go one lower. So the interesting thing is that is the position we need to get into. So I'm going to take out this. I'll put one more lower one right there, and that is going to give us one perfect. So that should be just about what we need. The only problem is, guys, we had the intention of having this be one foundation off in the opposite direction. So what I'm showing you guys is that instead of having them here and here, we had intended for the one in the middle to line up like so. So it was directly in between those two. So we can solve that pretty easily. We're going to take one more of our wooden pillars like so, and that should create a snap point in the middle for us like that. So now that that's done, we take out this pillar, like I said, being very careful, and then we're going to build out so that we now have a 6 6 foundations, and in this scenario where this wooden bar comes just up through the middle of your first row of foundations, you will be able to access the handle of the boat and drive it. So that is what all that work was for. Now this is just our starting point. Eventually, instead of a 2x3, we're going to have a 2x7. Extend it as far off the front as you can, and the technique for that involves thatch ceilings. You cannot place a foundation here once the raft's support runs out, but you can trick it by placing the ceiling there. So that is what we're going to be doing, and we'll see how far off we can build off the front. Oh, that looks like that's going to be the limit right there. So we'll place that, we'll remove this, and we'll do the same right here. Okay, like so. So those are 5 of our foundations. So that's now a 2x5, and it's not going to let me build any more off the front of this. Before I get too far, I should make sure that I will be able to build on the front of this. Sometimes you can place a foundation but not the wall on it, so we're going to have no trouble there, and that means we need to add 2 more off the back in order to get a 2x7. There we go, just like magic. There we go, guys. So that is a 2x7. All right, so the next step is a key one, guys, and this is one that I didn't do the best job explaining when I did the Arctic Steamboat. We're going to be placing fence foundations. Now, there are some that will be more visible than the wooden ones, but the wooden ones should be visible enough. Like, I can see exactly where this one is. All right, so it's going to be a little bit challenging, guys, but we're going to be placing wooden fence foundations. If you see right in front of my toe, there is a wooden fence foundation right here. It has to be snapped to this, the foremost of the foundations, and from there, we're going to be building off on a diagonal. Once again, a little bit hard to see, but you should have no trouble seeing that, and then we'll do the same thing right over here. So instead of that, where you can see the little green highlight there, we need to move it to this side, and I'll zoom out for you. And there's our wooden fence foundation. We will come to here. We'll stand right on top of the end of that one, and we will try and find the diagonal line that runs across the middle. Now, to test that and make sure it went according to plan, we're going to be trying to put up a couple of Adobe walls. And ideally, you want them facing the same way. So what I have going on here is 2 fence foundations facing different directions. So I'm going to be picking up this diagonal one here as soon as I can see it, and I'll be replacing it. And if need be, you're going to want to flip that rather than doing anything, flipping the wall, which will move its snap point significantly till that. So now we should have an evenly placed angle on the front of our boat, like so. Okay, so that is not the end of the fence foundation. So you're going to be placing one more on either this line or this line. The foundation on the right, foundation on the left, but very close to each other. And then from there, we're going to give up the wooden pillars we were using, and we're going to grab some Adobe ones. All right, guys, so place them there and there. Now we should also have a snap point out the front. So if you were to zoom out, it would look like that. Now, depending on where you put that foundation, that pillar is going to be slightly off center. And I don't want to waste building pieces by trying to make it look totally symmetrical. I would rather, do this. So at this point, guys, we have placed 14 foundations. We have placed 5 fence foundations. So that brings us to 19 pieces, 21 walls, and now 6 pillars. So we're at 27 building pieces, and we have a bunch more to do. Let's leave it there for the moment, and we'll be right back. And welcome back, guys. So that is where we left off. That is what the prow of the boat was looking like. And the next step is an easy one. You're going to continue your Adobe walls. They're going to snap a normal, the normal way, just snapping directly to these without any trickery. You're going to do 3 of each on either side, and that means you're stopping in line with this pontoon and with the rudder. And this is where the entrance and sort of the cockpit, the bridge, I guess is the term, of the boat is going to be. And so you're going to build up with 2 doors here and here, and then on top of those, a window frame. I'm going to keep the count going in the bottom just as we complete areas of this build, guys. And once you've done those, you are going to take your walls back and continue them one past, like so. From here, we can actually grab sloped walls. They'll be the Adobe sloped walls. So we'll put one there and one there. So this is how the boat should be looking after all of the Adobe pieces we just put in. So by my count at this point, guys, you have 45 building pieces in place. It has come time to work on the above deck, the top deck. And what we're going to be doing in order to get that in place is a couple of thatch ceilings. Or roofs. They are temporary, so that's why we're doing thatch right there. And from those, we are going to be building off with all of our wooden ceilings. Now, we're putting these in place first, and you can stop right there. So just build 1, 2, 3, one for each of the walls. The regular walls and the tapered ones on the prow we'll be worrying about in a moment. But the reason that we're doing that, guys, is because the walls here are going to be wooden walls, but they're going to be inside out. So to flip it on PC by default is E. And you will be getting that. And on console, it's Y and triangle. Because we're going to be doing that, anytime you do that, it actually messes up the snap point. And it gives you a new snap point for your ceilings. So we wanted to get those in place beforehand. And we'll do those on all 3 of these walls. 1, 2, 3. And actually down this end, we're going to be doing the same thing, but with sloped walls. So get this one here where it looks like it's wrong, flip it. And you will get the outer texture on the inside, and we're going to do the same thing right here, flipping it to get that. Now, let's come over to the front of the boat. We were very careful not to mess with the way we were doing the ceilings. Basically, by doing the ceilings before the walls, we were careful to preserve the snap points up there. The front of the boat is a little bit different because these walls actually sit lower than these, and I think it's because of the fence foundations, but there was nothing I could really find to overcome that. There wasn't a whole lot of extra work. So I am actually just going to flip these, and we're going to be attaching our ceilings to those. Let's go ahead and put one in there, right? And one in there. So that is that, guys. That is how this looks. Now, these ought to be able to come out now. Am I right? Yes. Okay. So those 2 can come out. That means our new count for pieces. By my count, we are now at 63 building pieces, guys. And that is just we have a little bit of room left. I think we have 88 total. And with 63, that means we have room for 25 more. All right. So the time comes to continue this build. That means, guys, we can... the next step is the gate. Now, the gate was essential to the first version of this boat. I think it was part of the look that made it unique, and we have combined so far wood and Adobe on this build. You can see from there what I intend to do. We'll place 2 more fence foundations, and we will have like so. That is what I intended it to look like, and if we put a gate in there, I assume we'll get the other side of the gate now, like so. I like the look of that. Honestly, it would work fine either way, but this is the side I prefer. So when we open that up, what do we have up here, guys? At the moment, it's an open space above our heads. There are a couple of ways you could deal with this. One would be a rope ladder right there. We're going to have a door frame up there. The other would be for us to replace one of these with a wooden ceiling and the other with a hatch frame. And there is our ladder. This is going to bring us up to a cockpit, and that cockpit a bridge. And this is where we're going to need to add in the final details. So wood or Adobe here, guys, I think it's a pretty obvious choice. I'm going to be putting wood right here, like so, for a door. And I'm going to be putting a wooden window frame right here. Now, to get the snap point you're looking for, if you want it inside out, look at your feet, or look at this and do the flip that we did earlier. In this case, I'm just doing it like that. I'm going to take another one of these wooden sloped walls, and another one right here. And dang, it's getting dark and rainy fast. BRB. Okay, finally. Jeez Louise. All right. What is the point of a desert if it's going to rain and get all cloudy? This looks much better in the bright sunlight of the desert. So that is what we did, guys. We ended up with the inside-out wall and window frame. If you chose not to put the ceiling and the hatch frame here, placing these is really easy. They only have the one snap point. And placing the ladder is easy. You can snap it right to here. So you climb up, come out the door, go like this. But then there is no real bridge. There is no spot you would stand and necessarily look out over the bow of your ship. The final step here, guys, is for some sloped Adobe roofs. And I have two of those. I'm gonna put them on here and here. One of my favorite building pieces in the game they, like the walls, look a little bit weird. The texture on the bits that are normally wood is the same texture as Adobe. It's a little bit disconcerting when you're building on a boat. It doesn't look quite like it normally does, and paint isn't going to apply the same way. But in general, that's one of my favorite building pieces we have in the game. And that is the bones of the boat. Let me do a new count, and I will let you know where we stand and what you can add with your remaining pieces. All right, so I did the count. Currently at 74 building pieces. There is one key thing we are still missing, and that is a fireplace. So the fireplace is kind of key to the design. It kind of makes this thing unique. And in the past, I could not get it very close to the walls. Now, because we have that clipping, no clipping setting enabled, I can now place it wherever I want. And I'm going to nestle it right in there so it fills that little hole, that awkward hole that we had in the deck up above. And we're going to go take a look at this. And I think that is it. Those are the essentials. That is what you need for your build. And by my count, this exact build, we're going to be at 75 building pieces. So that would mean we have room for 13 additional pieces. We'll double check in a moment to see if my count is right. If you guys find yourself enjoying this, click the like button. And if you build this, if you build the Desert Steamboat or you've built the Arctic Steamboat, tweet pictures at me. I would love to see them. It's at UniteTheClans on Twitter. Hit me up, and I will be back in your life in just a moment. So by my count, guys, we are at 75 building pieces. That would leave you 13 if you had the default building limit. If I were playing in single player, I would test that and place 13 pieces and see if it stopped me from placing the 14th. So you'll have to let us know in the comments how this build works for you. For me, I could keep building all day on this server. I could build this thing until it was 500 pieces probably. But this is how it looks now. In old versions of this build, I had always used railings, and you can see they have a billion snap points because of the way we built this thing, but if you could get them in a straight line, good lord, I'm not even going to try. Alright, and with enough practice, you could put some railings on. If you are like me and you're not worried about hitting the build limit, go ahead and do that. If you are, you're going to want to use these pieces for crafting, for a place to sleep, maybe adding in a second floor, a bunch of storage. It's really up to you, but this is how I've built the boat. I think it makes a great framework for you guys. If you are able to keep building, go ahead and put doors in here, put a window in up there. Like I said, you can go a long way off the back of this boat. Well, at least another 2. So you could have it be that big. There's plenty of ways to expand this if you have the freedom to, but I wanted to give you a design that came in under the build limit. And by my count, we're at 75, including the chimney, including these 2 pieces under the bridge. And I think that gives you 13 to play with. Now, I have done this boat build in the past. People who play on console have said that the build limit doesn't seem to work the same for them, and I have also counted wrong in the past. I think when I did this design before, I said you had room for 17 pieces, and very few people were able to do that. So I will trust you guys to let me know in the comments what I might have missed, what might be essential to this design, and I say we sail it off into the sunset. Alright geeks, thank you so much for hanging out today. Watch as the Desert Steamboat sails off into the sunset. Like I said, I'm going to be relying on you guys to make this unique, to make it your own, to add paint jobs, and to design it for specific purposes. If you do, tweet at me at UniteTheClans. Popping up on your screen right now is a playlist that will take you to the Arctic Steamboat, to some desert-themed builds I've done, and onto some other tutorials I think you may just like to watch. If you've never done it before, click on my face to subscribe. I'm UniteTheClans, and I will see you geeks in the next Arc building tutorial.